Hey YouTube, Ron here with another video update on the RS. I've done about 2,500 miles or so, almost 2,600 miles on the turbo kit. So I wanted to give you guys, an idea of what it's like to live with a car that runs mainly ethanol. So I got a question in the comments here the other day that was pretty interesting about what kind of miles per gallon do I get, and what kind of issues do you run into. So again, the car's done almost 2,600 miles on mainly E85, and when I say E85, that means that the engine's running anything between a minimum of E60 up to full E85. So the benefits are that the car it makes amazing power. It runs really great, no knock. Engine runs cooler. The turbo spools faster. If you've never driven a car on E85, I kind of recommend that you don't, unless you're gonna unless you can have easy access to it, because once you drive your car on one of the E30 tunes, you're not going to want to drive anything else. The response is just it's like night and day. It's a really big difference compared to running on 93 octane. I imagine race gas is much the same way. I've never driven this car in race gas, but it's probably the same effect. So yeah, some of the negatives of running mainly an E85 RS. The gas tank in this car is not that big. I hear conflicting reports, but I think it's somewhere between 12 and 14 gallons. I'm not sure. I think it's probably 14 gallons. And on E85, I'm getting anywhere between 14 miles per gallon up to 17. So when I say that, it's based on on the ethanol content. So when I run the car on E70, which is where it normally is, I get around 16 to 17 miles per gallon, which is fairly decent considering it makes almost, well, not makes almost, it makes over 600 brake horsepower, about 540-ish wheel horsepower, thereabouts. So on E70, about 16, 17 miles per gallon. If I run full E85 in it, it makes closer to 14 gallons a gallon, 13 to 14 miles per gallon. So again, not terrible, but obviously not great. Because ethanol costs less than gasoline does, it's almost a wash, gets close to being a wash as far as price, but it's certainly not a cost as far as time, because you're going to spend a lot more time at the gas station. So what I typically do is when I drive my other car to get gas, I just take two of these bad boys along and fill it up. And even though they're rated at 5 gallons each, between the two of them, it's right at just under 12 gallons, it's like 11.9 gallons between these two VP Racing jugs. So it's like another tank of fuel right there. So that kind of saves me a trip to the gas station. So that's the one negative, is that you are going to spend a lot more time getting fuel if you drive your car a lot. So I get about just under 200 miles to a tank of gas. So again, not great from if you're interstating with it, but again, it's the smallest per gallon is definitely there. Some of the negatives, you really want to make sure that the lines in your car are designed for E85. Again, I know a lot of guys are running E30 tunes and they don't seem to be having problems, but because I've been running, again, mainly higher ethanol content, one thing you'll notice here, this is the fuel line. I got tape on this to keep trash out of it. This is the line that goes from the high pressure fuel pump back, that guy, to normally it's connected to the factory hard line, right? If you're running port injection, it'd be connected to this piece of hose that full-blown supplies, which connects to the driver's side of the rail. So normally the way this would work is this line, right, would be connected to the passenger side, to the driver's side. This guy has an AN fitting. I've got it covered up with tape, but it's got an AN fitting that screws into here, and then this end of it, which says engine connection, actually, connects to the high-pressure fuel pump. So if you look in here, I started developing a leak. Like one day I was driving home and I was smelling fuel, and luckily the car didn't catch fire. But if you look here, you see how that's beginning to break down, how it's corroded under there, and it's on both ends. It was actually leaking from this end here, but both ends have it. So this is the end that connects to the high pressure fuel pump, and this is the end that connects to whatever fittings or lines you have. And you see it's from this side right here is where the leak came. So I got really lucky that the car didn't catch fire. But just something to keep in mind. Again, I don't think that necessarily, if you're running lower ethanol contents, you might run into this issue. But again, the car's done about 2,600 miles in this current state of tune with, with again higher ethanol levels. And this particular piece of tubing, anyway, doesn't seem to like it. The in-tank pump seems to be fine so far, and the other tubing in the car seems to be fine. But this piece, which is goes between the high pressure fuel pump and whatever else you might be running. If you're running E30, the hard line, or if you're running a bigger power setup, it'll be like whatever your fuel rail system is set up to. It doesn't seem to like ethanol, at least not higher level concentrations. So what I ended up doing this week is I just made a trip to Summit and grabbed some 6AN hose and a couple of fittings. Made this up, and so there's just one piece of hose now that runs all the way around to the back to the high pressure fuel pump. I'm probably going to get, even though I didn't have any, there's no heat shielding on this, I'm probably going to get some heat shielding to put on that, because the turbo is right there, and I mean it's far enough away, but still, just for safety, I'm going to put a little bit of heat shielding around that guy just to keep heat off of it. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The rest of the fuel system has been bulletproof. The injectors are fine. I mean, all the lines supplied by Full Blown are good for ethanol, but just this one piece coming from the Ford factory piece doesn't seem to like higher levels of ethanol. And again, I actually developed a leak right here. So something to keep in mind. One thing you might notice if you're not running, or might try if you're not running port injection. I mean, Ford makes Focuses that are truly flex fuel cars, so the part number might be different. There might be another piece like this. It's also a direct injected car that this piece might be better rated for ethanol. So you might consider replacing this if you're going to run higher ethanol content. I just did the whole thing. I just replaced the entire thing with 6AN line that's rated for ethanol and fittings and whatnot. So just something to keep in mind. Sorry for this video getting a little bit long, but again, someone asked about what it's like to own an ethanol car, and I figured that I want to talk about some of the benefits, which is obviously it runs great and makes tons of power. It runs cool, but there also can be some negatives if you don't have everything else set up for it. Again, the rest of my fuel system is completely good for it. I mean, like all these lines, fittings, everything else are all set for E85, but it's just this one factory piece, the one last piece of the puzzle wasn't up to the task. And again, this is only after, I mean, my car on total has 6,600 miles on it, and 2,500 miles have been on higher levels of ethanol. So, figure a car under 10,000 miles, running high, a lot of ethanol in it has developed a leak here. And again, I got really lucky because this could have been a bad fire considering where the leak was, and the whole car could have burned down. So just something to keep in mind. If you guys are going to run more than E30, I'd consider, either replacing this with some 6AN or finding, rummaging through Ford's parts catalog and finding out what they use in the flex fuel Focuses, and then you should be good to go. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry the video is almost 8 minutes long, but I just took a while to explain everything. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the description below, and thanks again for watching. See ya.